My name is Muhammad Abu Bakar Zakaria. My meeting number is 1170811. My research title is the macroeconomic and bank-specific determinant of liquidity risk in Islamic and conventional bank in Malaysia, a comparative study. First and foremost, what is liquidity? Liquidity is the most important feature of a bank, where a bank can convert asset or security to cash without affecting market price. And liquidity risk refers to the possibility of bank fail to meet the demand for a certain amount of cash when it is needed in the short term. The problem statement and why I choose the research is because Yaga and Sena Rentis Muda 2009 has stated banks need to have effective liquidity risk management because good liquidity risk management lead to effective bank performance. And Nur Hashima Hussaini and Ismail 2013 also state the internal factor in bank that result in the failure to manage funds can lead to the liquidity risk. And Sukmana and Suryantias 2016 also state the global financial crisis in 2008 that result in economic problem, bank capacity in the facing liquidity. My research objectives first is to determine bank-specific factors that will influence liquidity risk in conventional bank and Islamic bank in Malaysia by final data regression. Next, to determine macroeconomic factors that will influence liquidity risk in the conventional bank and Islamic bank in Malaysia by final data regression. And last, to identify the difference in determinant of liquidity risk between Islamic bank and the conventional bank in Malaysia by final data regression. Next, my scope of study until 2019 as the period of this study. We now move to the literature review of this study. First, we see the bank-specific factor that influence bank liquidity risk. First, Sinsikara and Sitikaya 2019 has found that non-performing loan has negative significant relationship with liquidity risk in conventional bank in Turkey, but in Islamic bank, NPL has positive significant relationship with liquidity risk. Besides that, Iqbal 2012 has found that return on asset, return on equity, bank size. Next, we move to the macroeconomic factor that influence bank liquidity risk. Yaqub Abdul Rahman and Abdul Karim 2016 have found that GDP has positive significant relationship with liquidity risk in Islamic bank in the MENA and Southern Asia country. Inflation rate has negative significant relationship with liquidity risk on Islamic bank. Shen 2009 has found that GDP has positive significant relationship with on liquidity risk in the conventional bank. Meanwhile, inflation rate has positive significant relationship with liquidity risk in our conventional bank. Lauren 2013 has found that inflation rate has negative significant correlation with liquidity risk in a commercial bank in Zimbabwe. We now move to the data description and methodology. First, data collection. We are using secondary panel data. Data are taken from each bank financial position for bank-specific variable, and GDP and inflation rate are taken from World Bank data. For the justification, the selected bank must have the ability of financial statement for at least 6 out of 8 years. We are choosing domestic Islamic bank and conventional bank listed in the BNM. 10 out of 11 domestic Islamic banks are chosen from BNM list, and all 8 domestic conventional banks are chosen from BNM list. These two tables show list of selected domestic banks. The first table shows the list of Islamic domestic bank, and the second shows the list of domestic conventional bank. MBSB bank are not chosen because they cannot provide the financial statement from 2012 until 2014. The availability of financial statement from each bank state in the list of selected bank have shown that the collection data are strongly balanced panel data. There are two methods in measuring liquidity risk. First is financing gap ratio (FGPAR). Next, loan to deposit ratio (NLD). The financing gap ratio. This ratio is proposed by Shen 2009, Sel 2013, Insikara and Satikaya 2019, and Frauhi 2014. This ratio is an excellent method of measuring the liquidity risk exposure of any bank. This method reducing the probability of failure. Higher FGPAR will indicate higher liquidity risk. FGPAR is equal to the total loan minus customer deposit divided by total asset. For the loan to deposit ratio (NLD), this ratio is suggested by Xiao 2013 and Farahi 2014. This ratio is important to test the robustness of a result. Higher NLD, higher liquidity risk. NLD is equal to net loan divided by total deposit. This table shows the independent variable involved in this study. The independent variable is divided into two bank-specific factor and macroeconomic factor. The bank-specific factor have 5 variables. The 5 variable is return on asset, return on equity, capital adequacy ratio, non-performing loan or non-performing financing, bank size. The macroeconomic factor divided by 2 variables, economic growth and inflation rate. This is a conceptual framework of this study. There are 4 models in this study. First model is FGPR model for conventional bank. Second model is NLD model for conventional bank. Third model is FGPR model for Islamic bank. Fourth model is NLD model for the Islamic bank. We now go to a data analysis of the research. We are using panel data model, so there are 3 models in the panel data, which is pool OLS model, fee effect model, random effect model. There are 2 tests to determine appropriate panel data model, which is Bruce-Pangand-Lagrange multiplier LM test. This test is chosen between random effect and pool OLS, with null hypothesis. Pool OLS is appropriate. Next, we are using Hausmann specification test. This test is chosen between fee effect and random effect, and the null hypothesis random effect is appropriate. We now go to classical assumption test. We are using percent correlation metric and the Barron inflation factor to determine multi-commodity problem. And then you are using modified Wald test to determine heterocadasticity problem under null hypothesis homocadasticity. And then we go to Warwick test to determine autocorrelation problem under null hypothesis no autocorrelation. And then we go to Pasaran CD test to determine cross-sectional dependent problem under null hypothesis no cross-sectional dependent. And then we are using F-test to measure fitness of model. And we are using general least square GLS if the model have heterodicity and autocorrelation problem. We now move to the factor which is GDP and have no significant relationship with liquidity risk in the Islamic bank. We now move to the summary of the result. This table indicates for the 4 models that have been using in this study. First, FGPR Islamic Bank have consistent result with the NLD Islamic Bank, and FGPR Conventional Bank have little bit different with the NLD Conventional Bank. We conclude that ROA has negative significance with liquidity risk in Islamic Bank, and PF non-performing financing also have negative significance with liquidity risk in Islamic Bank. Size have positive significance with liquidity risk in Islamic bank, while for the conventional bank, CAR, the only one show the positive significance in with liquidity risk in a conventional bank. We now move to the conclusion of this result. The first objective is to determine bank-specific factors that will influence liquidity risk in a conventional bank and Islamic bank in Malaysia by panel data regression. For the conventional bank, we found that capital adequacy ratio has positive significance with liquidity risk, and for the Islamic bank, we found that return on asset and non-performing financing has negative relationship with liquidity risk, while bank size has positive relationship with liquidity risk in Islamic bank. Next, we move to the second objective, to determine macroeconomic factors that will influence liquidity risk in a conventional bank and Islamic bank in the Malaysia by panel data regression. We indicate macroeconomic factor in this study, which is GDP and inflation factor. GDP and inflation factor, or INF, are found to have insignificant influence on Islamic and conventional bank liquidity risk. Next, we move to the last objective, to identify the difference in determinant of liquidity risk between Islamic bank and conventional bank in Malaysia by panel data regression. The conventional bank and Islamic bank have different bank-specific factors that will influence liquidity risk. We now move to the limitation and the recommendation of this study. The limitation: this study only focuses on domestic bank. the study have difficult on getting bank's financial statement. We need to eliminate banks that cannot be able to provide full financial statement for the period under this study. We have limited data collection problem. The use of annual data. Some variables may influence liquidity risk cannot be identified. For the recommendation, we suggest for the further analysis to focus for all Islamic bank and the commercial bank instead on focus only for domestic bank. We suggest for the further analysis to use of quarterly data instead of use of annual data. We suggest for the further analysis to identify variables that affect liquidity risk in Islamic and conventional banks such as deposit. We recommend to compare liquidity risk with other risk determinants in the Islamic and the conventional bank in Malaysia, such as liquidity risk, such as credit risk, market risk, operational risk. Now we move to the reference of the study. This is a reference of the study. And this is a reference of the study. This is a reference of study. This is a reference of study. Reference of study. That's all for me. Thank you.